Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 1, Episode 10 of Scavengers Reign. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with Ozzy, Barry, and Chris. But more specifically, Ozzy, because we had that opening scene between Ozzy and Mia, which is kind of like it is their first interaction. I don't know if it's going to be because well, first I should also point out I was under the impression like Aaliyah Shawkat voiced Fiona. I mean, no, sorry. I thought I didn't realize that Aaliyah Shawkat also voiced Fiona. It wasn't until they brought up the fact is that Levi and Fiona sounded the same. I was like, I didn't realize that was the same voice actress. I didn't even click in my head because I saw, I'm going to butcher her name. I talked about this a little bit before, but was it Sapide Moalfi? I know I'm butchering her name. I'm so sorry. But I saw her name in the credits in one episode. I didn't realize she's voicing Mia until like, okay, I was like, the moment the character popped up again, I'm like, yeah, that's her. But there's that. But I wasn't fully sure where Ozzy and Mia kind of were relationship-wise. Funny enough, it kind of reminds me, and this is kind of, it kind of reminds me of The End of the Effing World, if you've ever seen it. In season 1, or rather series 1, Wumi Mosaku had played a character who kind of had like a one-night stand with one of her fellow officers, and that kind of ended up being this like background storyline to that season. I was wondering if a kind of similar thing happened here where it's like, because we don't know like how many times like they've been together, but it did seem like Ozzy, like the other time we saw her interacting with Mia was after what we saw. This scene, it predates that obviously, but it is like she seemed distant, and that seemed to kind of be Ozzy's like way of handling things. It's like, right, I'm not really a part of this whole operation. I just kind of make sure I look after the cargo. That's kind of my deal. I kind of load stuff up, make sure everything's in the right place. So whatever colony they're coming from and they're representing, like that's why I'm curious about the rest of this crew. Like, well, we know Cayman and Fiona are from like a colony, but I'm curious like how many of the other people, like is Sam from one, or are they just like specifically tied to this ship? Is Ozzy like freelance? Like she just happens to be working on this ship. It seems like it the way Mia was like, yeah, where are you going to go after this? Like maybe you could stick around on the colony. And because I also thought it was interesting because Mia was basically saying like we're all kind of running from something, and even Ozzy even acknowledges that, you know, she was trying to run away from something, but it just seemed like she felt stuck, and now like, oh, I found something else to be stuck in. And we see a very similar thing with Cayman and Fiona. That's what this was about. They were kind of stuck, and Cayman in particular was kind of stuck, and he was hoping this would kind of get them both unstuck, but it was more so about him because he wanted to try and make sure his relationship was okay, and he thought it was more of an opportunity for him, but he thought it'd be an opportunity for the both of them. It sadly didn't work out that way because it ended up costing him everything. Like I said, I'm getting lost in his sauce with this whole situation, but my point was I felt like maybe, because we do see that Mia and Ozzy gonna hook up, but we don't know if that was like the only time, because they were kind of awkward around each other before, and you know, it's like, I think that was probably the first time Ozzy's opened up to another person in a very long time, and probably like, oh, I'm trying to not get too caught up in my feels, but it's like, obviously you care about, I mean, it could be a thing of like, no, they are officially a thing, but even Ozzy was kind of like my friend. She never clarified, was like, oh, made it seem like they were an item or not. I think they might have gotten together that one time, and then Ozzy was kind of like, oh, maybe this is a mistake, and she probably got a little scared and kind of backed off, and that's that time we saw of her like being a little distant and Mia leaving her to book. That might have been one of the last interactions they had before, you know, shit hit the fan and they crashed on this planet. Well, the everything happened with the Demeter, and they having to, you know, some people in the pods and some people crash landing on this planet type of situation. But either way, back to present day, Ozzy is making her trek towards the Demeter with Chris and Barry. Now they were going to cross like these large rocks, and the water was kind of rushing by. And Ozzy got this idea, showcasing like her knowledge of this planet. So she ends up setting off the chain of events, which led to some kind of almost clay-like. It's a thing that she pops that almost acts as like this clay / mud adhesive that would make it so they could stick to the rocks. And as long as they have like a pole to keep their balance, they'll be fine. They won't slip because of the terrain. Now, I thought what was so interesting, it seemed like Ozzy purposely, and maybe that was just meant, but it did not seem like she put as much of the stuff on the bottom of Chris's boots. That's what I was like, are you trying to set Chris up to fall? It seemed like that probably was a case of like you're trying to set it up so her balance would be off, because Ozzy was trying to be like, right, before we even get there, I need you to make sure you promise me, because she had this whole thing with Terrence. Once again, Terrence is a lot more likely to be the voice of reason, because Terrence would stand up to Chris. He recognized the chain of authority of like how their situation works, but even he would have stood up to Chris. Barry, not so much. He kind of falters when it comes to Chris, because once again, he adheres to that chain of command, but also it's just like he's a kid, and maybe some of his circumstances makes him a lot more likely to listen to Chris. But like Terrence could have been potentially the voice of reason. But like I said, even if Terrence was alive, the way he responded to Ozzy, there's no guarantee, because Chris would have been like, no, we're not doing this. But I mean, to be fair, Chris told Terrence not to go after that recorder, and he still did it anyway. So there's a good chance he would have been like, all right, let's listen to Ozzy. But yeah, she wanted to make sure, because she knew she couldn't 100% trust Chris, especially the way, because Chris is like, yeah, this is about us. The only reason why she gives a crap about Ozzy, it's like, yeah, you're one of us now. So it's like, right, if you're outside of this group, you don't really care. Chris didn't really care too much. I was like, oh, was interested in Ozzy, but it was like, right, it was their trio. And even, hey, maybe we could have been a quartet, but now it's like, oh, we're back to being a trio, because now Terrence is gone and Ozzy's filling that void. And it's like, well, I don't really trust Chris. Like, she does seem like the type who will get their supplies and bounce. It's like, no, not only do we need to wake up any people in those pods, we also need to take them with us. Let's leave all the other like cargo stuff behind. Let the people be the cargo, because it's like, right, waking them up is kind of what Ozzy was worried about most. I mean, because obviously she's worried about Mia the most, but it's also like she wants to, I mean, I think it's mainly about Mia, but it's also about doing the right thing. It's like, we have to save those people. We have to wake them up and take them, because if we leave them here, God knows what's going to get, like, there's so many things on this planet that can kill you. Each of them is kind of faced off with certain things, right? So we can't leave those people here to fend for themselves an entire time, because who knows how long, especially because Chris made it clear, and it seems to be the case, that no one's looking for them because they're dead to most people. And it's like, we're still alive, but no one's really going to come looking for you. And there's all this time they haven't. So, or maybe they have and they're just not looking in the right area. Who knows? But despite all that, Chris is kind of still standing at the point of like, right, you're making a foolish mistake. Those people are dead. The only thing that matters is us. You're turning up against the collective that is us for these people. Because like Chris is saying, like, I'm looking out for my people. Like, oh, this stuff that we get there for could be from the colony. So it could be a situation of those people are dead. Those people are dead weight. We aren't. We can go help out some people who could really use it. But is that just Chris making an excuse? Like, is she lying? Like, maybe this isn't even about helping out some colony. Maybe it's just about keeping them going. Like, oh, like the cargo we bring to a colony could get us paid and keep us going for a while. That could be the true motive behind why Chris wants to do this. And Barry's kind of torn because he doesn't want the two of them fighting. But at the end of the day, he likes Ozzy, but his loyalty's to Chris. She's the leader. It's like, we have to adhere to that. Like, he is fixated on that structure. That structure is how they've always operated. That's what he knows. And to go up against that is a problem, you know? And so he knocks her out and ultimately they tie her up. They do, like, I don't think they left her on the other side. They probably already made it halfway, if not 75% of the way. So they end up probably tying her up and leaving her, like, she's in the direction of the Demeter. It is in that direction. She's just tied up and left alone. So that's going to be interesting to see. I actually forgot, I think the real opening to this episode was the situation with Levi. Now, there's a million different questions you could potentially, I mean, metaphorically speaking, about that whole situation, but the question is, we know that Levi has interacted with the species of this planet. Has been communicating with different ones, because if you notice, it's not all the same species. It's multiple species working together to piece Levi back together. Now, maybe on some level, Levi is sending out this signal to each of these creatures in its own language, and they're all helping piece it together. Every piece of Levi that washed up and got washed away is now being pieced back together. But you even notice that, like, slime or whatever that substance is that was having an effect on Levi. Like, is that what's reaching out to all these creatures, or is it Levi, or is it a combination of two? Because this thing ended up giving Levi kind of their own autonomy and consciousness and feeling. So whatever the case may be, Levi's piecing themselves back together. I wasn't sure how we were going to, I was like, because it would suck. Ozzy would have to basically start over with another Levi, but it won't fill that void. This new Levi would be its own being, if it could even be that without the experience and circumstances the Levi we've been following is going through. But it seems like that Levi is going to be back in action, hopefully back to help out Ozzy and to get some get back against that thing that tore it apart. So we'll see how that plays out. But another side of this involves the aftermath of everything with Ursula and Sam and them sitting on opposite sides of that creature they're riding on top of. Because it's like, right, he tried to plant that seed in you and he feels bad about it. And she's kind of a little worried, even though she's trying not to be. But Sam, I think she lets her guard down more when she realizes like Sam is kind of better, like into having some control over it, because he spits out another seed and he crushes it and kind of throws it in the wind. So it's like, no, I'm still enough me here, but it won't last forever. And he talks about like the instinct, the drive, the need to kind of spread this around. It's like when he coughs those up. But he also recognizes, I guess in general, they're not meant to live long, the host. I mean, I guess it depends. Well, I guess like if you have that creature, like the parasite wants to spread, right? But if you complete the creature like that, because I was about to say, the late old lady, she had been around for decades after John died. So it seems like that thing probably does keep you going. It revitalizes you, probably feeds you and revitalizes you. But if you don't ever complete it, the thing inside, well, it's hard to say whether or not it would ever fully kill you, because he did say like he was losing. He could feel it taking control of him more and more. The moment it tried to like pass itself on to Ursula, that's when he was like, I fully don't have control of myself. I can't fight this any longer. That's when he made his decision, which I believe is the title of the episode. Which obviously that conversation about decision could like fit every storyline element of this episode, but for him, it's like the moment they got towards the Demeter, he's like, okay, good. We made it here together, but this is as far as I go. I wanted to be the one who wakes up those in the Demeter, but I can't trust myself. I mean, he'd even told, like, Ursula, like, no, pull out your knife. She's like, we're in a wide open area. We don't have to worry about anything. He's like, no, if I double back, if I try to do anything, make the wrong move against you, you stab me. She's like, I'm not going to stab you. But she did still keep the knife out despite her reluctancy. But it's like, yeah, like for Sam, it's like, this is as far as I go. I already taught you how to wake everybody up. Like, because even before all this, Sam knew on some level, like, he wasn't going to make it. In case he didn't make it, like, Ursula can't survive on her own. And he knows that. And he had talked about it previously. Like, I'm thankful that I was with you throughout all this, that you were kind of my partner throughout this whole situation. And it's just, it sucks, because once again, I was talking about it previously, like, not all of them are probably going to make it to the Demeter when this is all said and done. But we don't even know, like, who's going to fully survive all this. I mean, Chris, Barry, I've thrown that out there, who might survive amongst them. Like, that could easily go either way, storytelling-wise. Cayman, who knows if he's going to survive his circumstance. He's going to kill himself in the process of killing that thing. I feel like Ozzy and Ursula have the best chance of being the survivors of the characters we followed. I mean, and even Levi, because Levi's potentially back in the fold, so highly likely to be back in the fold. I just can't put it, because it seems pretty like certain, but so. But, yeah, like, he stops, because I'm sure for him it's also like, I don't want to take the chance. If I'm on a demeanor around all those other people, I might try and not only affect you, but them as well. And I can't take that chance. While I'm still me, I'm going to end this on my own terms. And both of them having to say goodbye after, I mean, they went through hell and back. This whole journey brought them closer together. I mean, the thing, and the sad thing is, I didn't talk about it one episode, but a previous episode, Sam brought up he has a girlfriend, but they broke it off before his whole thing went down. So there's at least one person Ursula could tell about, like, right? Because a lot of Sam's friends die during the whole Demeter situation. So, because they're the ones that crashed and him and Ursula found their bodies. But maybe it could be a situation of at least someone Ursula knows, like, okay, well, don't really know much about her, only her name, but that could be a starter. But we'll see. Like, I'm thinking probably way too far in advance, but it just, Ursula was hoping, like, right, we get back to the Demeter and people can help, but it's like, there's no guarantee anything on that ship can necessarily help Sam's situation, because any removal of this thing will probably kill him, and there's probably no surgical way to do it without killing Sam in the process. And so he did it like, he went out like a G, reached up, peeled back that part of his chest that's open, grabbed the thing and squished it. And there's just like that beautiful poeticness of, there he is lying down, and like you see some creatures, there's one that rolls on his finger, it turns into a ball and floats into the air. Obviously could be symbolic of, Sam passing on. But it's almost that, it also plays into that symbology that we've seen time and time again of so much life rooted from death. Like, death ends up beginning, like, something will most likely grow from Sam's body and give life to something else potentially. So it is sad that the situation had to play out this way. But yeah, like, all the storylines are converging. Ursula is on her way to the Demeter, but so is Chris and Barry. Obviously, she's not exactly close, but she's close enough for now until she's able to kind of free herself. Ozzy, but not only them, the first one to get to the Demeter was the creature that Cayman's in, so that's going to be a problem, a massive problem that everyone's going to deal with. That thing is going to start killing some people. Now, it's going to be not only the people in the pods, any of our characters we followed so far, whether it's an Ozzy or an Ursula, potentially in danger. Then there's also, like I said, Chris and Barry. I could see that storyline going either way. Of maybe both of them end up dying, but I get the feeling like at least one of them will survive. And it's such a 50-50 coin flip of like who would survive. Because poetically speaking, storytelling wise, it fit narratively speaking if Barry ended up being the one that survived, having to figure out kind of on his own, and maybe he kicks it with Levi. With Levi, Mia, and Ozzy. That's, Mia's still alive, but there's also the possibility that Chris is the one that ends up surviving and has to go on with maybe her failure of leadership getting people killed. Might even be the thing of, yeah, Barry dies first and Chris is going to keep going, but either Ozzy kills her or something else. Like, there's just so many different ways that could go. Like I said, I'm interested to see what that takes us. Next episode's the penultimate episode, so how this all plays out, it does not look like the most favorable situation considering the circumstances, but it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.